I know we are way into the second quarter of the season, but it's time to ask our big questions for the next 20 or so games for the Orlando Magic. Plus, we're going to finish this week strong, if not a little bit late. And hopefully we don't get injured. We'll see. Let's get into it. It's a Friday edition of Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is December 17th, 2021. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the site expert and editor over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, we're going to talk about some of the Magic struggles finishing around the rim. Why the Magic are able to get to the basket, but one of their key issues is they aren't scoring well around there. Among their many key issues, it's one of them. We'll talk a little bit about some of the numbers on that. Plus, we'll review some of the things that we're watching this next phase of the season, these next 20 or so games for the Orlando Magic as they get to the midpoint of the season. It's coming fast, folks. We're game 30 tonight against the Miami Heat. It's coming. The season is quickly. That turn to January is usually a big milestone on my end. Before we get to any of that, though, we do want to remind you all. We do want to thank you all actually for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Whether you're listening to us right when we download, and apologize for getting out a little bit later today. Whether you're listening right when we download, whether on lunch, on break, during the workout, on your way to tonight's Star Wars night against the Miami Heat. Boo! There's a disturbance in the force here in Orlando with the Heat in town. We thank you for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. You can download us wherever you download podcasts. Plus, we are streaming on YouTube. Today's podcast is, if I could, I'm able to read this line here. TrueBill is the new app that saves you money by helping you identify and stop paying for the subscriptions you don't want or need. They can even negotiate better deals on those you want to keep. Check it out today at TrueBill. So we all know the Orlando Magic's offense is not good. This team doesn't have a lot of shooting, although I think they're shooting better. This team doesn't have a premier kind of scorer creator, a surefire all-star player. Certainly there are players trending direction. Cole Anthony has played exceptionally well this season. There are guys who are doing more things than maybe we thought, but this is still a team that's looking for a guy or several guys to coalesce around. And certainly the Magic, being a young team, prone to mistakes, prone to getting overeager, prone to not being at, kind of a level head. Certainly the Magic are a team that are a team that's not going to be perfect offensively. And so, yes, we've talked about this throughout the course of the year already. You are looking for little victories. You are looking for little signs that it's making progress. I think generally Magic's offense is working and moving the ball places you want them to get. I do think Jamal Moses is more of a read-based offense rather than a kind of strict structure-based offense, which is why I think players like Chuma Okeke are struggling a little bit more because it wants power players to drive and make decisions. And this is a young team. They're not going to make good decisions all the time. But it's about finding advantages, finding little gaps, and moving the ball that way rather than kind of creating sets and having a very strict structure to do so. And again, I think for this team, it certainly looks like it's going to be a struggle, but I also think that's going to help this team grow and make those reads and improve in some of those areas. And I also think it's a more modern sensibility for an offense. I do think Jamal Mosley is trying to implement some different styles and different tactics for Magic coaches in a long time. I mean, shoot. Steve Clifford was very, very strict. I think Jacques Vaughn was not strict in this. Frank Vogel certainly had a set way he wanted his offense to run. Jacques Vaughn, I think, really did well to kind of set up isolations and try and set up individual players to be in positions to score. Of course, they just weren't good at that. And again, that's kind of the issue with rebuilds. You're not going to have players that are good enough to run any kind of offense, unless, just things really, really click. And again, I will say this, I'll keep beating this drum. I do think things are going to click at some point this season. When the schedule lightens up and the Magic have a little more time at home later in the year, March and April, the Magic, I think, are going to win some games. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people late in the season. So you just got to holding on till then. This is sort of the team's tanking time, if you will. They're going to build a little bit of that cushion if that is their ultimate goal for the season. So the one area that I think has been abundantly clear that Orlando has to improve on, and something that will help a lot of the other issues that they have, especially defensively, is their finishing at the rim, particularly off drives and particularly within 5 feet. According to NBA.com, the Magic rank dead last on field goal percentage on drives. They're making just 42.8% on these attempts. Now, drive, according to NBA.com and Second Spectrum, is whenever a player goes from at least 20 feet to the basket to within 10 feet of the basket. It's essentially just any rush to the rim. So that doesn't necessarily mean they're getting all the way to the basket. It doesn't include all those shots, but it does include a lot of these pushes into the rim. Things don't look bad on the surface because Orlando scores 23.9 points per game from attempts on drives. That's 13th in the entire league. So a big part of the Magic's offense is this driving to the basket. Like I said, a lot of what the Magic are trying to do it's a very freelance offense. I really do think that the Magic's offense, it's very free and movement oriented. A lot of it is about getting guys going downhill, giving them the freedom to attack the basket when they're open, and then trying to use the penetration to get kickouts to open threes, to get guys in spots and to get the ball moving around the horn from there. Again, the Magic, not a good shooting team. They've missed a lot of open threes. There's at least 2 or 3 open threes in that game against the Hawks that if they had gone in, I think the tenor of that game changes. You could certainly point to the Los Angeles Lakers game. Several times Magic drove to the basket in that game, missed a layup, led to a run out from the Lakers because the team didn't replace and didn't move to get back in time. That's the one bad thing about drives is if you're able to get all the way to the basket and you miss, there's typically someone that's missing at the top that you have to come replace and all that. And so I definitely think that is part of what's going on with the Magic as well is they have all these drives that they're not shooting the ball well on these drives, and that's exposing them on the back end. Their 44.4 drives per game rank actually middle of the league. So again, they're last in field goal drives, middle of the league in attempts, 13th, again, middle of the league in points scored. So again, it's a sort of muddy picture. On attempts, of field goal attempts taken less than 5 feet from the basket, the Magic are shooting at a rate of just 58%. That's 27th in the entire league. 27th in the league in field goal percentage within 5 feet. They're taking 20.8 such attempts per game. That's 14th in the league. So again, Orlando is getting to the basket at a decent clip, not at the highest clip. Again, we're not expecting this team to be fully about that. And again, I think the Magic's biggest issue offensively is still sometimes when they hang around the perimeter too much and don't get in the paint. So it's good to see these numbers suggest that they are getting in the paint a little bit more. But they're not finishing when they get there. Within 5 to 9 feet away, the Magic are 29th, making 32.9% of their shots within 5 to 9 feet. So again, this all just paints a picture of the Magic are not hitting shots close to the basket, whether they're contested, whether they're just missing them, whether they need to make the read and kick out to the 3-point line or kick back out to a flare guy, go into the short corner or dump it off to the dunker spot, whatever the case may be. The Magic need to be better finishing at the rim or finishing around the rim. The Magic's 3 most frequent shooters inside this range, inside this 5-foot range, Cole Anthony, Jalen Suggs, are all shooting actually below that average number the Magic have posted. Cole Anthony is making 51.1% of his shots within 5 feet on 4 attempts per game. Jalen Suggs, he's had his notable struggles at the rim. He's making only 51.7% of his shots at within 5 feet on 4.2 field goal attempts. And Franz Wagner, he's had some good flourishing finishes. I think we're really confident about what he can become, making only 54.1% of his shots within 5 feet on a team-leading 5.5 attempts per game. And again, numbers drop significantly into the 30s in that 5 to 9 foot range. So there's a lot of opportunities here, but certainly plenty of areas for growth. And that's really the important thing. Just to remember about this whole season in general. These are all areas for growth. Learning how to finish at the rim, learning how to finish at the basket, that's a really tough thing. And I think, like Franz Wagner is a great example. Like if you would have told me Franz Wagner has a below average or below team average finishing at the rim, I think you were crazy just watching him to film or watching him and my general impressions, because that guy finished around the basket. He dunks it hard. He's got good touch around the rim. He's able to finish, kind of wild layups. So I'm not worried about Franz Wagner. And Cole Anthony's a great example. Why? Cole Anthony last year made only 49.7% of his field goal attempts within 5 feet on 3.5 field goal attempts per game. So he's already taken a pretty sizable step up, 49.7% to 51.1%. Again, it's not where he wants to ultimately be. He's still got work to do, and this is something you can clearly work on and clearly get better at. Cole Anthony is finishing much more effectively within the paint or around that 5 foot range. But again, this is still a problem for this year's team. And as much as those guys need to continue to get better and continue to improve, Orlando has to be smarter about how it finishes at the paint and how they create for others from their drives. That I think is the biggest point of all. The other thing hanging in the balance in this, of course, is the return of Markelle Fultz. In 2020, so not last season when Fultz 6 games, in 2020, Fultz made 60.5% of his shots within 5 feet and 48.5 drives per game. If there's anything to learn from anything, it's that, yes, there are really good drivers and really bad drivers and really good finishers and pretty okay finishers, not great finishers. And Markelle Fultz, as we've all suspected, is someone, if he's kept any of this, again, that's the big if. If he's kept any of this, is someone that's going to help this team finish better in the paint, create better in the paint, and be a bigger factor for the Magic on drives. We'll talk a little bit more about some of the that we have for the second quarter of the season now that we're almost halfway through the second quarter of the season already. Unbelievably, we're almost, game 41 is the midpoint. We'll take another pause and assess where the match. But first, if my copy will load, first a quick word from, I believe it's TrueBill today. I'm waiting for my copy to load here. It is acting slow. Yes, a quick word from our pals at TrueBill. Do you know why free trials renew without your consent? It's really kind of a business scam. I mean, look, they offer it because you don't want the inconvenience of having to remember, oh, did I pay this bill? Did I pay this subscription bill? But the trick is you forget that subscription exists and you keep paying for it nonetheless because they told you, hey, set this up for an auto renew. It's easy. Look, it happens to everyone. We forget subscriptions. We forget things that we're paying for on a monthly basis. And ultimately, we want to save money. So don't let these corporations pocket your money. Download TrueBill to take control of your subscriptions today. TrueBill is the new app that helps you identify and stop paying for subscriptions you don't need, want, or simply forgot about. On average, people save up to $720 per year with TrueBill because companies make subscriptions hard to cancel. TrueBill makes it incredibly simple. Just link your accounts and TrueBill will cancel your unwanted subscriptions in one tap. And your TrueBill concierge is there when you need them to cancel unwanted subscriptions so you don't have to. TrueBill has more than 2 million users and helped save them more than $100 million. Don't fall for subscription scams. Start canceling today at TrueBill.com/LockedOnNBA. Go right now, TrueBill.com/LockedOnNBA. It could save you thousands a year. TrueBill.com/LockedOnNBA. Thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you're listening to us. No matter when you're listening to us, whether it's right when we upload, right when on your way to work, on your way home from work, on your way to the Magic game tonight, we truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Remember, you can find Locked On Magic wherever you download podcasts, as well as streaming on YouTube. We are we've well past the quarter mark of the season this year. We're nearing the midpoint of the season, believe it or not. We're going to be a couple weeks away from that, maybe another month away from that, as we hit game 30 tonight for the Orlando. And usually what I like to do, I do like to take a pause as we can, because obviously the games don't stop. I do like to take a pause and evaluate where the team is at each quarter mark. The games are divided into quarters, the season into quarters. And, look, I expected the first quarter to be a little rough. I expected the second quarter, this quarter specifically, to be really rough for this team. The schedule the Magic face from Thanksgiving to about Christmas, a little past Christmas actually, is one of the toughest schedules that I've ever seen. The fact that the Magic leave tonight, after tonight's game, on a 3-game road trip, after a 5-game West Coast road trip, they don't even get a week at home after a long road trip. The fact that they're leaving tonight for a 3-game road trip against some pretty good teams. Brooklyn obviously is Brooklyn. Even with all the guys they're missing, Brooklyn is still Brooklyn. They get Toronto on Monday, which, definitely a winnable game for the Magic. Again, no game is winnable for the Magic, but it's definitely a game they can be a little bit more competitive in. And then, of course, they get Atlanta once again on Wednesday, and then a back-to-back against New Orleans, and then they're back on the road once again. This has been an incredibly difficult stretch. It's been incredibly unfair to ask this young team to be successful on this stretch, at least in the win column, especially considering all the injuries they had. I keep banging this drum. I don't think I'm being wrong here. I don't think my predictions are going to be completely off base here. The end of the schedule, the Magic schedule after the All-Star break, at least at the beginning of the season, was ranked as the easiest schedule after the All-Star break in the entire league. There was hope from some of us, certainly me, that if the Magic could get off to a decent start, they'd be able to make up ground late in the season. I don't think that's going to be the case now. I think the Magic are probably a little too far out, and they got a lot of work to do. They have to go on an incredible tear to make the playoffs a thing. I think 500 is probably going to be the number to make the play-in tournament this year. I don't think the Magic can make up that much ground. It'd be impressive if they did. And certainly would say some very good things about this young talent if they were able to do so. But I do think the Magic are going to be a lot more productive and a lot more successful on the win column later in the season. So do not be upset when that happens. That's just how this schedule was made. That's just how this thing was made. And even if the Magic sit guys, I think the Magic, certainly you want these young guys to be playing a lot better later in the season anyway. The Magic don't have a roster. They should be sitting guys. They should be letting these young guys play, letting these young guys experience some success. And if that costs you a spot in the draft, so be it. Again, that's just not my philosophy to play the draft lottery that way. But we still have a lot of questions that we have to get to this season. A lot of questions that we have to figure out with this group over these next now 10, 15 as season continues. And so we typically do two things. We name our MVP, which was Cole Anthony, obviously, for the first season. And then we ask questions looking ahead to the second quarter of the season. And there are definitely a few that today from the article that we wrote. Certainly the deadline is going to be on the horizon for the Orlando Magic. We talked a little bit about that earlier in the week. We expect Terrence Ross, Gary Harris, and Mo Bamba to kind of be in the trade market and on trade discussions throughout the course of the next. So that'll be something that we'll be watching. The next thing that I want to chat a little bit about. Certainly injuries have been a big story too. And one of the things that we will be watching and one of the things that we will be thinking about as we continue on through the next course of the next phase, Fultz comes back, when Jonathan comes back, and when Jalen Suggs come back. Now, obviously, that's not the most immediate thing. Markelle Fultz is back practicing with the team. He is back doing more workouts with the team as well as with the Lakeland Magic. My suspicion, I don't have this confirmed, my suspicion is that Fultz will probably spend the next week with the Lakeland Magic, practicing with them, doing workouts with them, getting work in their gym, just to kind of get himself acclimated. I've kind of targeted a few dates for his potential return. I think the Magic would like him to return at home. I think they'd like him to return someplace where they can really evaluate him and really get him going and kind of keep him in their gym a little bit. where they have all the equipment that they need for him. And so I would, I've been targeting the Milwaukee games, December 28th and December 30th as his potential return. If they don't get him in there, the Magic go on another road trip in January or early January. Then they have another big road trip in mid-January. He's going to come back eventually. And they may not get the perfect situation for him to come back, but I would imagine there'd be some hope, or at least from my perspective, for him to get some at home. If it were an ideal world, I would think that the end of the month would be the best time to get him back in the lineup. And it does sound like he is, close. Obviously, he's playing 5-on-5. He's practicing with the team a little bit. So now it's just about building up conditioning and seeing how he feels, taking the bumps and contacts of playing 5-on-5 and getting him game ready. So I think the Magic can bring along slowly. Jonathan Isaac, obviously, we saw him on the bench the other day against the Hawks. So he's still with the team. He's still there. He still exists. But obviously, we don't know where he's at in his progression. Again, the last update we got a few weeks ago was that he was a little bit behind Fultz. He wasn't playing at least 5-on-5 yet, or playing 2-on-2, 3-on-3 yet. But the Magic seem to be very confident that he's improved his shot, that he's continued to work on his skill set, and that it's just a matter of making sure he has the strength and stability to come back full time. I think the Magic are being very careful and cautious because they don't want another stop, essentially. They want him back. They want him back for good. They want to not worry about any more lower body issues. Obviously, he had the ankle issues. Some of that's random. He can't control a lot of that. He's had the 2 knee issues. And as Jeff Wiltman pointed out, it's essentially been 2 years since Jonathan Isaac's played basketball full time. And so I think there's a lot of caution to bring him back slowly, make sure he's reacclimated so that he can stay with it for the rest of the time. And that's really the truth. And of course, Jalen Suggs, he got an evaluation earlier this week. Still progressing through his rehab, still progressing through his injury. It sounds like he'll have another 2-week period where he will be before he will be reevaluated. And so that'll be one of the big questions that'll come up. Obviously, injuries have been a huge story for this season. And they've been they're a huge story and a huge thing for this team in general. There's just no getting around it. The Magic are an injured team. On the injury report today, Cole Anthony is questionable with a sprained ankle. Bo Bamba is questionable with a sprained ankle. Gary Harris is questionable with left hamstring tightness. And the latest addition, in addition to the normal 5 that have been out for most of the season, Jalen Suggs, Markel Fultz, Jonathan Isaac, Ephon Moore, and Michael Carter-Williams. Stakis is now in health and safety protocols. He is out for today's game. It's been a lot of injuries. The Magic have had more injuries than any other team in the league. That includes, of course, the 4 that have been out the entire season. So that juices those numbers a little bit. So Orlando is certainly waiting to see what they can get from anyone and how much they can rely on anyone. Obviously, they've had to lean on a lot of players a whole lot this year. It's been rough. There's just no other way to put it. It has been a very, very rough season. And so a lot of the season is just about getting guys healthy again. And that's really, I think, what the second quarter of the season is about, is trying to find some health, getting some of these guys back in. As Jeff Feltman said, one of the goals for this season is to reintegrate those injured players, and we're waiting to see how they do that. We'll talk a little about the Orlando Magic's game against the Miami Heat coming up here in just a moment. But first, a quick pals at Built Bar. Look, it's the holiday season. There's plenty of food going around. There's plenty of gifts being given. Give the gift of Built Bar. It is truly the perfect stocking stuffer. Literally, you can just put it right in the stocking there. Built Bar is a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, and sometimes even better than a candy bar, frankly. It's filled with so much holiday goodness, rich with decadent flavor, covered in chocolate, but amazingly low in calories, sugar, net carbs, and fat. And yes, high in protein. You get the best of both worlds, delicious and healthy. There are so many flavors you will have a hard time choosing which one is your favorite, like raspberry or mint brownie, cherry or double chocolate, cookies and cream, or peanut butter brownie. The answer is cookies and cream, by the way. Built Bar gives you the extra fuel you need to bust down those mall doors and battle all the holiday shoppers, or just deal with family in general. Built Bar can give you that extra something to keep you going. So just throw one in your jacket or purse. Always have one with you. You never know when you're going to need it. Like some of those marshmallow treats around the holidays, you need to get your hands on Built Bar Puffs. They're light, fluffy, and marshmallowy through and through with different flavors, all covered in chocolate. They taste so good you won't believe they're filled with protein. Go to Built.com and use promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order. Again, use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. Today's podcast brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is your one-stop shop for all the latest props and odds in the sports world. They have more than ever before as the football season continues to wind to playoffs. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the sport action this season. Head to their new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use the promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. From basketball, football, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. The Orlando Magic will take on the Heat tonight at the Center. It is going to be a very different Miami Heat, maybe the one we are accustomed to seeing. It'll be a very different Orlando Magic team than perhaps the one we are accustomed to seeing with all the injuries that both teams are facing. Right now, Bam Adebayo's out for the Heat. Jimmy Butler's out for the Heat. Tyler Hero's listed as questionable for tonight's game. It's gonna be a rough one in a lot of ways. But look, give the Heat credit. They play really, really hard. They still have Kyle Lowry, obviously. They do some. They're the Heat. They bend really well, and that's obviously the start of everything. I mean, they're like, say what you want about the Heat fans and everything. Heat culture is a real thing, and their guys play it really, really well, and especially against it. They played really well against Philadelphia. They built a 20-point lead. They almost lost it, but they were able to pull out the win in the end. And obviously, that's why they're the Heat. That's why that they do the things that they do. It's going to be a tough game for the Magic. Every game's a tough game for the Magic. That should go without saying. And especially if the Magic are without Cole Anthony. I mean, look, the Magic have no chance if Cole Anthony's out. Like, let's just be real. They just don't have enough scoring push and scoring force, and they don't have any other point guards. If RJ Hampton has to start at point guard, this game's going to get ugly very, very, very fast. And again, we're at a point now where, if this happens, we're not learning anything about this team. And that's going to be, again, it's like the end of last season. That's the most frustrating part. When you're not learning anything about your young players, you're just kind of going through the motions. That's what tanking is. And so that's the Magic are on the verge of having a roster very much like that. A culture win. I'd like to see some culture play. Like, let's see this team get after it defensively. Let's see this team be a little bit more precise defensively. Honestly, I don't care if they make or miss shots. I want to see the team play with the defensive attitude and intensity that they say that they're going to play with. And if they can do that, again, look at Miami. You play good defense, you have a chance to win. That's the bottom line in this league, especially in the regular season. If you play good defense, you have a chance to win. Tip-off is scheduled for 7 o'clock. Ahsoka Tano herself, Ashley Eckstein, is reportedly going to be in the building. I know they're doing like some meet and greet with her for some ticket holders, but hopefully she gets to say Go Magic, the Orlando resident. Remember, Ahsoka's from Orlando. Went to Dr. Phillips High School, if I'm not mistaken. So very, very excited to have the greatest living Jedi ever. No. Yeah. Oh, no, I said it. Ahsoka's the best Jedi. Deal with it. Nikola Vucevic, that one. I want to thank you all again for listening to today of Locked On Magic. Of course, find us on Twitter at Locked On Magic. Subscribe to the podcast and Apple, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey. All the ways to download podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. You can find me on at @PhilipR_MD. Of course, for the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Now that you're done listening to us, be sure to check out the Locked On Bets podcast with your boy Q and expert analysis from Lee Sterling. They have all the latest that you might need to get ready for the weekend's games. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. For Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.